Seriously, of all the nebulas, that one was your favorite? April nodded. Yep, not even close. The two others sitting at the table next to her started laughing and nudged their third friend, who'd asked the question. See, we told you humans are weird, they said. I just don't understand, said the initial speaker, a furred biped with a shaggy jaw and antennae that ended in tufts of soft spikes. Our species and humans see a similar slice of the EM spectrum, and for us, the clouds just look boring and white. Sure, there are some pretty swirls and such in what you humans call UV, but that's not even visible to you anyways. Is this some kind of human joke? April shook her head. For me, personally, that's still my favorite. Really? Compared to, say, the one we saw last week with all the beautiful browns, reds and yellows swirled through the light. April wrinkled her nose, but it smelled like ass. Literally, it smelled like waste products. Wait, really? Yes, biological excretions and waste on my world, and for most species, tend to be pretty heavy in sulfur and thiol compounds. Huh. For me, the smell was just dirt, I suppose. April chuckled. I like so-called boring cloud the most. It smelled like raspberries and vodka, although no matter how much I begged Neelith, they refused to build me a condenser and collector, saying there could be too many harmful trace compounds to make filtering worth it. The aliens around her leaned forward. Raspberries and vodka? What are those? Well, vodka is essentially purified ethanol, diluted in water, manufactured from a human food called a potato, a sort of overdeveloped tuber. As for raspberries, April struggled for a moment, trying to think of a description her curious audience might understand. Let's see, you don't have fruit, so I suppose it's effectively an engorged flower, well past the point of maturation, filled with bulbous nodules of seeds and liquefied glucose-based syrup, also diluted in water. The aliens leaned back, various expressions of disbelief and mild disgust crossing their faces. One said, I don't understand what's with you humans and your planet using water to dilute everything. April shrugged. Well, it makes for a refreshing beverage on a hot day, she said with a smile. Her friends chuckled, shaking their heads, still not fully understanding how odd humans could be. But the laughter abruptly faded as April's head snapped up, her expression suddenly serious. The aliens watched curiously as she took a series of deep breaths. Humans were renowned for having incredibly sensitive noses, hundreds of times more so than any species yet known. Only a few had stronger perceptions, but even then, it was always in perhaps one or two highly specialized pheromone or hormone detectors and poor scent differentiation otherwise. Not only could humans identify those smells in kind, but they could also detect a great deal more important scents as well. This was, in fact, why April had been hired onto the crew in the first place, one of only a small band of humans aboard the massive cruiser. She stood and strode over from the bench to her official station, little more than a computer slate and keypad next to a wall-mounted seat. But the location of the seat was important, as it sat almost directly adjacent to the primary port airlock. It had just hissed open, revealing the faces of a pair of work acquaintances who had been repairing a section of plating damaged by a micrometeoroid. April's brow furrowed as she turned to the miners, her friends approaching from behind, each expressing mild curiosity and confusion. They sniffed through their olfactory organs, little more than short, smooth, finger-length tubes looping through the inside of their skulls near the tops of their heads. Internal muscles squeezed and released, drawing small amounts of air through, but nothing immediately notable caught their attention. One of the newly entered welders held up their small arm-length emitter and fusing nozzle. Was it this? Perhaps. I know you humans can smell when something gets burnt or melted by scent alone. April shook her head. No, I know what that smells like, and this isn't quite the same. Her friends seated nearby began to look alarmed. You don't think it might be, one started, but April had already moved quickly to her seat. She pressed a conspicuous button to open communications directly to the bridge. A moment later, the captain's gruff voice came through. Yes? What is it? Captain, April said tightly, I have to report a positive detection of Ilmari at the port airlock. There was a momentary pause as the captain swore quietly. Are you sure? She began, but then cut herself off. April could hear the sounds of other intercom chimes. A few moments later, the captain's voice returned. No need to answer that. We've had Ilmari confirmations from the fore and starboard airlocks as well. The comm signal abruptly cut out, replaced moments later by a ship-wide communication alert. A sharp tone blared, followed by the captain's voice. Attention, crew of the Fonta Viator. We are initiating full Ilmari protocol. This is not a drill. Tech Ops, get that depth probe retracted before we lock down the fore airlock. Engineering, spin up as much momentum as you can on the generators before we mute the core. I want maximum defense readiness if we need to jump. Off-board miners have 300 seconds to return before airlocks are sealed. The ship burst into motion. Automatic shutters closed over every open window, and the port dome shield pivoted into place over the engine ports. Metal strained under tension as a ratchet system clicked, ensuring the covers could retract swiftly thanks to the stored compressed force from the wound coils if the engines were needed. April accompanied her friends around their sector of the ship, depowering non-essential electronics and heat sources and shifting vital systems into hibernation mode. They assisted remaining crew members who had been resting and were now woken abruptly by the captain's announcement. Together they secured spacesuits, clicking helmets into place and performing final inspections to ensure everything was protected. The spacesuits helped shield the wearers' heat signatures and provided some protection in case the ship lost atmospheric pressure. A low rumble vibrated through the deck plating beneath their feet as the generator flywheels reached maximum speed. April's gaze flicked to her crewmates, and she grinned. Trust me, if we need them, you'll get both safety and a show. Then she returned to her station. As the last straggling miners quickly entered through the airlock, she closed it and attached a long, winding set of tubing between a circular port on the airlock and a small box positioned a few meters away near her station. One of the crewmates, who had never encountered Ilmari or participated in an Ilmari protocol drill before, turned to his companion. Why is that connected to the exterior airlock? Wouldn't that... His voice was cut off by the captain's command. Effective immediately. We are in full lockdown, core systems only. Stay away from windows and airlocks as much as possible. The more experienced crewman pointed to the small box attached to the hose, intersecting it before it reached April's suit. Leaning forward, April pressed a series of commands on the control panel atop the box. There was a click and a hiss, and a small membranous panel nearby began to inflate and deflate slowly, in rhythm with each of her breaths. The crackle of the captain's voice came over the comms. Any updates, April? No, Mum. It's weight. Nope. It's definitely getting stronger. I'm glad I initiated the Ilmari controls just in time. It's still a little ways off, but not by much. Very well, keep us informed. I'll have engineering standing by. April nodded, saying nothing, her focus on the wall ahead as she took careful, measured breaths. Occasionally she grimaced, reacting to the scent of space. The younger crew member watched, puzzled, as his companion pointed to the box along the tubing. There's a chemically reactive component in there, something humans cooked up before they even reached their own orbit. It generates breathable oxygen, maintaining a pressurized environment and letting her monitor the smell of space outside. But what is an Ilmari? Why does it need its own protocol? The naive crewman asked. The other alien chuckled darkly. I sincerely hope you don't have to find out. The ship fell nearly silent, save for the soft hiss of breaths and the gentle creak of the plating and wall struts. Another minute passed, and the aliens began to relax slightly. Suddenly, April leaned over, coughing and gagging. She wrenched the vent port from her suit and slammed a fist onto the communications button, sending a ringing alert chime across the ship. Lights brightened instantly as the captain's voice barked, "Full power to the engines immediately. Spin the generator and give it every ounce of unused power. Put us on the other side of this sector." April, still on her hands and knees, gagged and coughed, taking deep lungfuls of air. Her two friends rushed over, helping her to her feet, and she looked up at them with a small, grateful smile. The younger crewmate picked up the end of the device attached to the human's suit. Curious, they leaned over to sniff, just as the ship began to lurch and alarms blared around them. There was no discernible smell, only a faint breeze from the mechanism's pumps. Yet something about it tickled their olfactory tube in an unsettling way. It wasn't that there was no smell, but there was something there they couldn't immediately notice or recognize, but it sent a shiver down their spine to the tip of their tail. Instinctively, they tossed the source of the faint, ominous, null odor away. Suddenly, the ship rocked under their feet, as if it had struck something in an otherwise empty stretch of space. "Is that the—" the novice started to say, but their words caught in their throat as the ship lurched again. Damage alerts blared across the comms. "I need more power to the generator, more, damn it! Pull from the engines if you have to!" The captain's voice barked over the communication layer, rising above the shouts of alerts and status reports from the bridge crew. April quickly made her way to her station, securing herself with the seat's buckles. The two aliens followed suit, fastening straps and webbing across their furred, uniformed chests. They braced themselves against the bulkhead a few paces from the airlock. Another jolt rippled through the ship. The elder alien nudged the panicked younger crewmate, saying, "The shutters are unlocked. If you want a glimpse of an Ilmari for yourself, now's the time." The younger alien glanced out the nearby porthole. At first, they saw only stars, the usual view of open space. But then the darkness seemed to grow, and points of light began to dim slowly at first, then rapidly until nearly every glint in the sky had been swallowed by some vast, unseen presence. "Any moment now," the elder said. Suddenly, a flash of beautiful, streaking green lights danced along the hull of the ship. The lights didn't reveal a shape, but after a moment, the missing stars reappeared, as if the vast darkness that had obscured them had fled. The older alien, breathing heavily, joined the others at the window, sighing in relief as the stars returned to view. They turned to April. "I'm glad you were able to warn us it was coming." April smiled and shrugged modestly. "Really, it's something any human could do. Turns out pretty much all of us can smell the presence of Ilmari." She keyed up the bridge comms. "Captain, I'm going to head to my bunk and get some shut-eye. I think I'm wrapped up for this shift." The captain's reply was curt, but cordial. "Acknowledged. Thanks for the good work." As April walked away, the elder alien watched her and said, "Humans don't often talk about it, but several records state that the most shocking thing about leaving their solar system was the smell of space." The younger crewmate shuddered. "Imagine what the humans must have thought when they first smelled a Ilmari," he asked in a strangled, quiet voice. The older alien softly corrected, "No, you misunderstand. They were shocked that most of space didn't smell of predators. April returned to her cabin, raising the sun visor on the window to gaze out at the passing stars. Idly, she wondered if she might see a star blink out for a moment, obscured by a distant, passing monster. Stretching, she shrugged off her jumpsuit and relaxed in the small chair of her narrow cabin. Opening a locked drawer, she withdrew a gas canister. Deeper within the cabinet was a series of filtration, distillation, and osmosis tubing, something she had painstakingly assembled herself after much wheedling and convincing the engineering department to at least describe what would be necessary to construct it safely, even if Neelith refused to make it themselves. The canister had a small window through which wisps of faint white vapor swirled, visible only at the right angle of light. "Hello, beautiful," April murmured, pulling a modified regulator mouthpiece out and putting it in her mouth. She took a deep breath of the purified nebula gases, luxuriating in the heady aroma. The strong kick of aerosolized vodka mingled perfectly with the pristine, sweet note of raspberries.